Well, I am so thrilled to have Zari Gill with me on our Amazing Women Who Inspire Us and Are Changing the World series. Zari, welcome to See Hear Love.
Thank you, Melinda. Thank you. It's an honor for me to be here with you and to be able to share my thoughts and my story and the things that I care about with you today.
Amazing. Now, Zari, we have a bit of a history. I have known you
Hmm.
because we worked in the same organization many, many, many years ago.
Uh-huh.
And I think I was like a young, I don't even know. I think I remember seeing you speak and being so inspired of your courage and the work you were doing. I mean, that goes back how many years? 20 plus?
Almost.
I don't know.
Yes.
It was about 20.
Yes, almost.
we, we were young babes.
Yes.
Sorry, we were young babies then.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, that goes back way back to 99, I think.
I
Yes.
know.
Uh,
So it's an amazing that, years later, we can kind of come together in different spaces now,
uh-huh.
looking at all the things that we've done and accomplished. And so I think we need to just take this moment to kind of like take it all in. Like, you have done tremendous work. God has really taken you on quite a journey, and I'm so excited to hear about it in the next while. But
Thank
I
you.
just remember, I want to tell you that, you know, in that time many years ago, I remember some incredible work you were doing in, yeah, advocacy and helping in communities. And I was so inspired and encouraged by you. So I just wanted to say that to you if I haven't already done so.
But,
So,
and thank you, Melinda. And I must say that you were inspiring for me at that time too, because I remember that you were able to do things that others could not. That was, this is way back when we were still working on a very, very strong approach to HIV/AIDS care and
yes.
the HIV/AIDS orphans and all, and the kind of materials that we worked on together. I saw the courage in you. I saw the way to get
Oh,
things done, and I think that was very and is still very inspiring for me. So thank you for being there and for supporting me with the programs that we were trying to bring forward in a very effective communicative way. Thank you.
thank you. I got chills on that because I remember at that time when we had to share the stories of people and communities and that had HIV
Hmm.
and AIDS, and it wasn't it was a hard topic to talk about then.
Hmm.
People were resisting it, and I remember as a young person having to go in front of people and talk about it and convince people this was important, that we needed to care for people, we needed to give money and support and prayers for it.
Hmm.
And so thank you for remembering that, because I remember that was very difficult, but it was important and necessary, and we needed to get the message out. So thank you for that. That's why I love when people have been in your life for so long, because they remember things
Yes.
that maybe you've forgotten. So I appreciate that a lot. All right, sorry, we have a lot to cover, and I'm
Uh-huh.
so excited to learn and listen to you and from you. But let's start off with, in your life, two leadership learnings or words of wisdom that you live by. I always love this because I always love to hear what people say. So, what are some of the learnings or words of wisdom that you have lived by up until now?
One of the most important words that I usually fall back on is flexibility, Melinda. Flexibility as a
It.
leader, because that's when you talk about you're able to make room, you're able to change, you're able to shift as slightly as possible, and that brings to mind the image of a like a surfboarder, or a snowboarder. And I call it a snowboard leadership, because you as a leader, when you have flexibility, you're able to hold your balance as a leader,
Hmm.
but you're still shifting and changing and adjusting and making room for others. And I think that is the strongest quality that a leader can have. They don't compromise on the standards. They don't let go of the protocols, or the important objectives or targets, or the ends that they have promised, but they're still able to work with a lot of flexibility with their team. And the other thing, which is
Good.
which is
Like that.
part of my learning, is when the leader expects great things from their teams, outrageous things from the teams. Um, that is when the team works well and is able to achieve so much more than even what was expected. Like we know that, that when more is expected of you, you behave in that way, right? When you're
Mm-hmm.
appreciated, when you are given credit for, when you are given attention to, that's when your work in that particular circumstances, but especially when it is hard, hard topics that we were
Mm-hmm.
just talking about. But when the
Yeah.
leader shows you that he or she expects a lot from you, you do better. And they also live by that. It's not only that
Mm-hmm.
you in the team is expected to do well, the whole team, including the leader themselves. So outrageous
It's good.
expectations is a great learning for me as a leader from my work in the development, and also with women, that I've been able to achieve so far.
Those are fantastic. I love flexibility as a leader and that visual of surfboard, snowboard, because you're right. It's like you're on it and you have to be core and anchor. So you're like solid, but you have to move around and to go down, the hills and bypass a rock or a tree. I
Mhm.
love that. I've never heard that before. And it's a great visual because I can see that where it's like you have to stand strong,
Mhm.
but you have to move, right?
Yes.
Uh, on the board. That's really good. I love that.
Yeah, in
And I
your
love
heart you
that
know
when,
that you cannot fall, right? And
yeah,
so that's why you learn how to adjust to everything that is around you. So thank you. Yeah.
so good. And then I love when the leader expects outrageous and great things from their team. I get that. Like I've really pushed my team into some things, especially during the pandemic, and they're just like, "Oh, Melinda." But when we gathered together and kind of rose to the occasion of doing it,
Hmm.
I saw my team really come together and then accomplish things we honestly didn't think we could
Hmm.
in a pandemic. We actually went above and beyond anything that pre-COVID
Hmm.
we would have done. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, like it's you dream big, you get the people to go with you, and they will go. And then it was amazing that, and I'll share this with you because I haven't really shared this, but we were doing a team meeting after I think our first or year and a half after kind of dealing with the pandemic,
Hmm.
and one of my team members says to me, because I said, how did I do as a leader? How did our year go? How are we doing?
Hmm.
And one of my team said, um, I'm so glad, Melinda, that you pushed us to do more things. You stretched us to be creative because then it didn't feel like we were really in a pandemic.
Hmm.
We were focusing on things to reach people with good news and possibility and hope. And we weren't stuck in the mire of, oh, the situation. We were kind of going forward
Hmm.
with new ideas and new things. And it just, anyway, what you're saying kind of reflects what she said. And I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
so that's great. Sorry. Like, I just felt like, yeah, when you as a leader uh, ask that or, of your team, what happens to them. It's good. Those are great learnings. I've written them down
Oh,
because I'm always I want to go back to them as a leader, um, and think about those. I love those. Okay,
excellent. Hmm.
this is a tough question,
Hmm.
but an important question, a necessary question, especially for women of color, women in Canada. Uh, Tell me, Zari, one or two challenges you faced, and then how you have overcome. Um, because I think in those places we can learn, grow, and have a sense of sort of the solidarity as well
Hmm.
together.
Yes. Yeah, those were, like they've been in Canada for 20 plus years now. And then that reminds me of my first year in Canada. And the hardest thing, and the challenge, and the hardest thing which I felt at that time was that expectations from me were different, right? I was expected to know less English or different
Mm.
English, which of course I had. My accent is different. The way I express is different. But the challenge was that I was expected to know less, and at times I would say,
Mm.
the time I would say that
Wow.
I would hear, actually, is that a new word for you? And it was tough. It was tough to be able to deal with it. The only thing that was in my quiver at that time was patience. To be able to say, okay, but slowly and steadily, they
Mm.
will understand. But then not only just the language part, but also, like the other behaviors. For example, um, once there was this, there was a potluck, and I volunteered. I said, okay, I'll bring the food. And next morning I bring the, whatever I cooked. And I was asked, about, oh, is it well cooked? Um, and I'm trying to look at them. I mean, how do I describe that? I mean, is it well cooked or not? Of course, I said, yes, it is
Right.
well cooked. Then I was asked, oh, did you put it in the fridge overnight? Um, things like that. So again, the same thing, like, the expectation was
Mm-hmm.
different, and
Mm-hmm.
strangely different, that, like me being a person of, brown skin and dark hair.
Yeah.
It was just given, perhaps, that you behave differently. So again, the same thing, that you kind of give a little bit room, and you make room and help them understand that, with time, things will be more clear. But one of the hardest things for me, which took me a while, was the cultural difference, because,
Mm-hmm.
coming from a very strong cultural background, as a woman, uh, you present, or you present yourself, I mean, like, of course, you talk confidently, you stand and participate in whatever is going on confidently. But as a woman, you're never supposed to make eye contact with men in your workplace, or with
Oh.
women who are
Oh.
senior to you in age or position. You never make an eye contact. And
Really?
yeah, I mean, that's how it is
Wow.
in many, many cultures, and of course, that was inborn in me. That's how I was raised and educated and everything. um, but the challenge for me was that was seen as lack of initiative, lack of, being able to participate, or take leadership. So I was put in
Uh-huh.
this box, a box where
Mhm.
it says she has very strong sound knowledge, like, the health knowledge and the health programs, that because
Mhm.
I joined, with my background and as a physician and as a public health expert. So I was put in this box of having sound knowledge, but then there is always this little labor somewhere, lack of initiative, or lack of, communication. So I think that took me a very long
Wow.
time to deal with, because it was very slow process for me to understand that this
Mm-hmm.
is what was causing it, and it's only through, a friend who became a good, mentor as well. So and she actually just reached out and asked me, like, why don't you ever look at me? And I said, what do you mean? And I did not even know that I was not making eye contact, so
Wow.
that.
Here's a question I have. This is fascinating because I'm so grateful for your friend.
Mhm.
Because where is the balance of, especially with cultural differences, for people to ask in kindness and understanding versus in judgment and in shame,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
What would you say? Because I think there's a lot of people who are like, Mel, I don't want to say anything, especially if it is a woman of color or somebody of color, because what if it's offensive? But on the flip side, there have been some really good things that were hard things said to me
Hmm.
about character and things that helped me
Hmm.
now become a leader I am today, because people were loving enough and courageous enough to share that with me. Do
Hmm.
you know what I'm saying?
Hmm. Yes.
So what would you say is what would you say in speak into that?
The fact is that there is no coaching as a newcomer, or a woman of color
Hmm.
who's new in Canada, for example, or new in the workplace. There is no, and even up to this day, like I'm part of certain,
Hmm.
groups that are working on newcomer settlement and developing new programs for newcomers and refugees that are coming in. And one of the things that has been felt very strongly is the lack of coaching and mentoring and being able to understand,
Wow.
or a
Yeah.
space where you can ask questions. Because like I was saying, I
Ah.
never realized that I was never making eye contact until the point, to the until that day where I was asked that, why don't you look at me directly? And just because we got into that comfort level years later, so it happened. So I think that is that as a woman of color was, uh, it did put me behind for a while. Like
Hmm.
I said, I had that strong um, representation as a person who is sound with her knowledge and her ability and her, as far as, like the soundness of the approach is concerned. But then I lacked that communication uh, excelling part,
Yeah.
which came later on. So I feel like that is something that we need to look into, like women who have
Hmm.
dark hair and dark skin. How do we bring that forward to the others who are not aware of it? And that's a question to
That's good.
myself and to others. And I'm very
Hmm.
committed to bring it forwards in a way and be able to learn. And I think this discussion right now will be of help to many, because they will understand, and
Yeah.
because many of them will be from the same background, where you never look at somebody in the eye, and you can be
Hmm.
strong, you can be very sound, but you never look in the eye. And I think that's what we need to learn differently as well.
That's fascinating, Zari. And I think cultural, I mean, that's just one of many cultural differences where in North America,
Hmm.
it is about strong handshake,
Hmm.
eye contact,
Hmm.
kind of this assertive,
Right.
forward,
Right.
body, all in. You know what I mean? Like it's this. Whereas if culturally, it's like that is not.
That is
That's
not
actually
acceptable.
wrong and offensive and everything
Yes,
bad with that.
yes.
You can imagine. You're right. I've never heard of that to think, and then you come in with all your education experience, and then people because of that then assume things of you
Hmm.
that you're not. You probably were like, maybe she's avoiding, or she's insecure, or she's not confident,
Hmm.
or she doesn't, you know what I mean? I can see what people are thinking
Hmm.
here in
Hmm.
North America if you weren't looking at them in the eye.
Yes, yes, and you're very right. That's
Fascinating.
why you're put in that other box. You're right.
Other box, yes.
I don't know
Wow.
how to describe that box, but that other box, which is separated, which is not part of,
Yeah.
like the main, the main circle where things are happening. And
Yeah,
I think that
fascinating.
that's a huge challenge.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's really, really good and insightful. And I think we'll get to this a bit later. So I do want to talk about,
Hmm.
the sort of coaching and mentoring
Hmm.
that, if we are as a society going to learn and grow together, accept and understand, there does need to be a very intentional creating of these moments and conversations with one another,
Right.
that we need to be open and um, to hear and to listen and to learn, right?
Hmm. And like just one small thing which I would just came to my mind is that with all this the lockdown generation, as we are calling them, we might
Mm-hmm.
see that among the young professionals or young
Hmm.
people who are just getting ready to enter into their their walks in life, because of the reduced in-person touch, in-person contact, being together in the room with many people. um,
Mm-hmm.
and there are some studies and reports showing that especially young children, they have missed out on it. And we might be facing a point in time where people do not relate, in the usual ways. So it's not only just a person
Wow.
of color or somebody who's new in this culture. I'm afraid we might be looking at a generation of young people who will not be able to relate at the same level as the previous expectations. And again, that's a point where we want to watch for and be alert for and do something about it, because like we are at a point where the world has changed so much. And what was previously considered okay and normal, we may not see that anymore. But
Yeah.
again, the good thing is that we are able still to have that flexibility to still expect, great
Yeah.
things from each other and continue to work together on that.
So good. Well, Zara, I want to go into just, your own story.
Uh-huh,
My as a storyteller,
uh-huh,
I went into media because I realized as a young woman and as I was going into my career that I loved listening to story, bringing out the story in people, and then sharing other people's stories. And I really believe that that's why I'm where I am today,
mm-hmm,
because I really sort of followed this gifting and really followed what where God was leading. And now, it surprises me every day that I have a show. Like, it honestly, there are moments I wake up, I'm like, this is my job. And then I laugh and I'm just like, I get giddy because I'm like, this is wild. Who would have thought? And yet, when I look back at my own story, it's like, oh, there were signs and there were,
mm-hmm,
handprints and things. But anyway, so, you've talked a lot about, being a physician and the different things that you have done and whatnot. But I want to hear your story as a child. Um, what made you want to do and be the person that you are
mm-hmm,
in advocating for women?
mm-hmm,
Why you came to Canada, and just, yeah, in general, your story. I'm always fascinated to hear people's journeys. So wherever you want to start,
uh-huh.
you go for it.
Okay, okay. I'll start. Like, because my story is as plain and as average as it gets. Because uh, but still, I'll share some aspects with you. Like, I was born in a Christian home, and
Mm-hmm.
we were, being as a religious minority, we faced many challenges, that
Mm.
minorities do. Like, there's social exclusion, there is stigma, there is this separating out, and then there is this attitude of being dismissive about yourself, the attitude of
Mm.
subordination, an attitude
Mm.
of being lesser than the majority.
Mm.
That was the commonplace things, that was, and everybody who is a religious minority, many different, countries in the world, they have the same problem. But my parents, my mother was a physician, and my father, he taught math and physics
Mm.
in school. They were, I was as eldest of the four siblings. They were so committed to do something about it, to nurture a sense of importance, of self worth, of not being dismissive, of not being subordinate. What
Mm.
happened is that there comes a point where you have lived with that sense of subordination to the point where you just accept the way it is, and then you don't
Mm.
expect yourself to change or things to change for you. And I think that's what my parents tried to do. They created that sense of doing well, sense of being able to share your thoughts in the house and in the family time, being able to speak up, and being able to be part of that strength that came being in the family. And we were
Mm-hmm.
taught Colossians 3:24, whatever you do, do it with all your heart, as if
Mm-hmm.
working unto the Lord. And I think that was a very strong aspect of why we need to
Mm.
do well. Why need to do the best that we can. And my mother, she always said, do the best you can and until you know better. And I didn't know at that time that she was perhaps reading some of Maya Angelou's work, but she would say
Mm.
that so many times, Melinda, that it became ingrained. And all I learned, and then my siblings as well, was the that we have to do the best, and we are to do whatever we do
Mm.
with all our heart into it. And my mother was also very, very committed to nurture the sense of self-care among us. And every night, I remember she would sit with us, four of us, and holding hands in a circle. And she built that strong core, the strong core of self-care, which was founded on faith and daily devotion and prayer. And I think that's why, I was able um, to do things different from many other people my age, or children my age, who were in that, who faced that minority, situation. And
Mm-hmm.
lo and behold, I went through school, I went through medical school, I went through, trained as a pediatrician, went into public health at Johns Hopkins. And now I'm ready to tell my story of, which comes from the people I meet, from the communities I served, and from
Mm.
the experiences I gained, in 30 different countries across the world, Melinda. Like you were
Wow.
saying, it was perhaps in the writing, like being able to grow that mental broadness of being able to accept, like, what is happening around me is actually there to build me up, and what I can do is to do my best as I do it unto the Lord. I think that
Mm.
prepared me for being able to come and serve in, many different countries across the world. And I was able to, bring that with me when we came to Canada. So coming to Canada was part of, getting more education and more knowledge, and
Okay.
being able to advance a bit more in what, and in self growth, and in self awareness and self care, as far as, being able to be filled up to the point where you are, able to share more. So I think that's what brought me and John. I was married by that time, and our two small kids. We came to Canada, and that's where we were able to live and survive and do well. And you know what? Some of the things that
Mm.
I just described, of having to, being treated or having to live differently as a
Yeah.
religious minority, were um, were a stronghold, actually, when we came to Canada as well, because now we were, again, like I think we were earlier talking about it, as women, as a woman of color, I was again in minority here.
Mm.
Different reason, but again in minority, culturally
Mm-hmm.
different,
Mm-hmm.
genetically different. But then the goodness and the nurture and the self-care, which is founded in faith, is what came into play. Because, church played a very strong part in the sense of giving us the sense of belonging. So my parents, they were able to create that social capital out of friends and family and church, which,
Mm-hmm.
as a religious minority, we felt that uh, church was the stronghold for many people, and that gave them that identity, that belonging,
Mm.
that uh, platform to do well and to be able to fill yourself up to the point where you are able to share with others as well. So here I am with you, trying to, share my story, and I'll continue to do that in many different ways. And I'm hoping that, with my current role with Red Shawl, and with
Mm.
as a consultant and coach, because that's what I've taken up in the that's my most recent endeavor. And then the aim is that to bring that philosophy into the mindset, the philosophy that everyone is impactful,
Hmm.
and the young professionals of today, or the people who are just ready to graduate, recent graduates, or who have finished their studies, they need to realize and to establish their personal impact, which is based on their own self-care, on their self-awareness, on their strong impact that they feel that they can have. And once they have their personal impact established, then they are ready to change anything they touch.
I love that. Everyone is impactful. And I know you're incredibly impactful. I just want you to just share a little bit. I'm going to ask you about the coaching and mentoring in a second, but Red Shawl
Hmm.
that you founded and now are the president of. Can you talk to me about that? Because that the work is phenomenal, and it's so my heart and See Here Love's heart about empowering and equipping the next generation. We do that by stories and resources and content, but you're doing that by very practical, hands-on ways. So can you just sort of share a little bit about the mission and focus of Red Shawl? It's incredible work.
Yeah, definitely, Melinda. So this was years back, like 2013. Like I was saying, I traveled to 30 different countries across the world and was part of the different religious groups and the cultures, and that enriched me. Like I learned so much, much
So
uh,
good.
more and beyond than what I learned in my country of birth and living in Canada. And that's when I started to realize that the main aim that I was always working towards is better health, right? Better life outcome,
Mm-hmm.
as far as and improving health so that women can have better life outcomes. But I also learned that if women were not enabled economically, there was
Yep.
no income stability, there was no educational stability, they did not do
Mm-hmm.
as well as they could have, and that's
Right.
when I started to realize that you know it's not only in the developing world, or the countries where I'm bringing those projects, is right here in Canada as well. you know like these are
Mm.
women, or young women, or single moms, or senior women, or educated professional women who are coming here as new immigrants. They all face that challenge where the income stability becomes questionable. Is because
Mm.
they cannot earn right away, they cannot have that economic leverage which many others have because of different reasons of being here longer. Or so that's when I started to talk to a few women, in my church and my circle of the people I interacted with, and started sharing that idea. And we thought that we should start to do, like maybe form a little group and start to do something about it. And that's when Red Shawl came into being. The idea is that
Mm.
a woman shares her shawl with the next one. So all your
Mm.
resources, like it's the story from Elijah and Elisha, when the mantle was shared. Not a whole lot was said, but even sharing of the
Mm.
mental empowered, uh, and provided that empowerment and confidence. And I think that's why the name Red Shawl, and red being the vibrance and the color of life and brightness that you bring. And we started really small, like with providing clothing donations and providing some food donations and all. But slowly we started to build up, and went into skills training. And so until up to
Wow.
COVID-19, we've had strong experience of doing skills training for women, not to replace what they're doing, but just for additional income. Because I think that's what the thought is. When a woman has expendable income that she can use, she will use it to improve her family first, and then of course herself as well. So that piece
Mm-hmm.
of extra income, that expendable income, that's the goal. And I think that's where the skills training came in. And we've done jewelry making courses, we've done alteration seamstress courses. Those were the two
Mm.
most popular ones, which have been on hold for last 23 months now because of
Mm.
COVID-19 and the lockdowns. But we are hoping to bring them back in a better way. Like you were
Mm.
saying, so when you think and you want to expect better, you find better ways. So we are hoping to be able to do that online and build a platform where we will be able to offer those courses, online, and be able to, and that goes twofold. So it offers opportunity to the instructor who has been
Mm.
sitting at home for last 23 months, and
Right.
and is not able to bring what she knows to the people. So she gets a venue where she can restart, bringing her knowledge to the people, or the women that she is who sign up. But it's also for the women who want to add that extra income. So I'm hoping that, we've had some good, opportunities to submit some proposals for that, and I'm hoping that this is going to come
Good.
through and we will be able to offer that. The other thing that Red Shawl has done was, we got a government grant actually to do a very strong research with Wilfrid Laurier to find out, like, how do we
Mm.
bridge that income gap. And one of the main things that was found out was the fact that women do have a lot of capacity, but it's just finding that that venue where they can bring it forward and make it
Mm.
work for them to bring that economic stability. So I think, and we also did, a very quick survey with our members. So the focus is coming back again to, I think, what we were talking about earlier is the younger women, because, like the new generations, as we call them, their expectation is different. Their
Yeah.
way of dealing with COVID-19 even is different. They are very digitally savvy. They know how to take it up and,
Mm.
run with
Yeah.
it, and they find ways to be more functional, as compared to some of the other generations. But also the fact that they're still lacking that leadership, that the touch of experience is going to be a huge gap. And I think that's where Red Shawl is going to focus on some of the, professional development activities, and also the employment, enhancing the employment for the newcomers or even the new graduates, because at times
Yeah.
they have the knowledge, but they don't have that experience, that human interaction, which they have lacked for the last a couple of years now. So the
Wow.
horizon is huge, and we are
Yeah.
gearing up to be able to deal with that, and then bring better programs which respond to the need. And same holds for seniors too, because seniors were isolated, they were excluded.
Mhm.
Senior women particularly, because women particularly typically they don't drive, they stay at home. The husband and the children, they all go out and get assimilated into their communities. But women tend to, put their need last. And driving is the other biggest thing, right? And when you don't
Wow.
drive, you are, you're still bound to the point that
Yeah.
somebody has to take you, you know
Yeah.
and
Wow.
so that's the other big need that has come into picture right now, is the having a driver's license. And I think we have
Mm.
proposed a project for that to be able to help women who do not have enough money to spare, to for herself, to be able to go and look into getting a driver's license, which is a piece of identity for her, which is a piece of increasing uh, her ability to reach out, to get out, to take care of herself, and to be, when she takes care of herself better, she's able to give care better as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's in
You
it.
know, sorry. Yeah, no, I just think I love that, in all of your experience, because I mean, a lot of people have experiences and are experts, but a lot of them don't necessarily then do something with it and become a social entrepreneur or, you know, found an organization, you know what I mean? And so you're so inspiring in that, and knowing that the knowledge that you have, the work that you've done over the years in the 30 countries, then understanding what women need, and then creating Red Shawl to respond. It's beautiful. It's what we should be doing, especially, women to women, all of us, as far as humankind and people,
Hmm.
providing opportunities to help others.
Yeah.
It's so fantastic.
Yeah, so
Really,
we are, bound to help each other, and the focus is on improving women's lives so that they can improve
yeah,
communities, woman by woman. That's the slogan that we go by. So when we change things for one woman, it affects the family, it affects the community. And then
yeah,
when we are able to do it, the multiplication, the multiplying effect is there as well. So hoping that,
amazing.
Red Shawl will continue to bring strength to the communities, to the women and to the communities in future as well.
Yeah, I know it's fantastic. Um, Now, also, you do coaching and mentoring
Mhm.
as well. What does that look like? I mean, it makes sense why you got into that work, but what does that look like as far as focus and why you felt, yeah, I really want to do this. I mean, you're not just sitting around. You're a busy woman. There are so many things that you're involved in. And I can resonate because I'm always doing stuff too. It's like, everybody says if you want something done, give it to a busy person or a person that has a lot of things going on, because usually they'll get it done. And
Mhm.
it's just some people have high capacity to do a lot,
Mhm.
and I can see that in you. So why coaching and mentoring
Again,
as work for
thank you, Melinda. Again, going back to the point where, my previous work, when I was actively traveling and, providing
you? Hmm.
services across the world, um, I was able to bring the knowledge and learning back into, my organizations, the interns that came in, and that's where it started. Other organizations, including universities, education institutions, they started talking to me to ask if I would be willing to be a mentor for young, professionals who are getting ready to go into the employment, or to the students who are still in medical school and in global health, global development education. And that's when it started. This was years back, and I was able to, they used to call it Canadian Society for International Health at that time, and I was on their mentornet program. I was providing medical mentorship to medical students in, several universities in Canada. um, but then now with we see that health has evolved. The pandemic has changed the health arena completely. We talk about hybrid work. We talk about, yeah, it's not 9 to 5 office work, office centric work anymore.
Right.
You either go to office some days and you work remotely the other days, and everything is digital. And like I was saying, the young
Hmm.
people, the young generation is ready with that digital
Yeah.
technology. They are ready to take up the challenges, and they are ready to go and do more. And I think many have done more too. And that's where, again, um, uh, I was contacted by several, organizations when they asked me if I would be a coach for their young professionals. And I was able to work with few students last year, and I have three this year who again are ready to be in the workforce, but they need mentorship in how to make decisions and how to be a strong leader. And some are even thinking that should they go back to school and learn more, study more, get more, experience. Last year she was such a dear person. She finished her MPH a few couple of years ago, but when she was ready to go and work in Chad, um, she felt she was not ready at all, and
Hmm.
she felt that she was not seen as an expert. you know So things like that, that you do not see yourself as an expert because you have not been able to put your hands into it. And that's when, I started to share with her and work with her, almost
Mm.
half of the year last year, to say that there's one thing, to do 1,000 things 6 times, but then to be able to say, I have done these 6 things 1,000 times.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's when you start feeling that you have, more expertise, you have more knowledge, you have more practicality to offer, something better to the other people that you're working with. So she really caught up
Yeah.
on that. That clicked with her so strongly, doing 6 things 1,000 times. So which helped her to narrow down to what are the kind of, you know um, career choices she wants to make, the school coursework that she wants to make. And this is just an example of the kind of work that I've been
Yeah.
doing with the young women so far.
Amazing. I love that. And I think as we women get older and we realize all the experience, like there are moments, sorry, I still think I'm like 20 and I'm looking for a mentor, and then realizing all these young women come to me and go, "Can you mentor me?" And I laugh. I'm like, "What?" And then realizing I've had so many years of experience
Hmm.
that yeah, I guess that there's a lot there to share
Yes.
in what I've done, and so I that's so good, and I'm so glad you're continue to mentor and coach women. As we look at, this is sort of International Women's Day month, and we're featuring, amazing women who inspire us and who are changing the world. The focus for this year is, break the bias and world where we see gender equality and gender parity. And what's your hope for women this year when we look at, like, obviously this continued work toward equality, and breaking the bias? Maybe what's your hope, or how do you see, just sort of synthesize how you see each one of us working towards that?
Um, uh, I have been doing some reading on it actually, Melinda. Like, all these the social justice issues, the racial justice, and like the other things that we've been facing, with the marginalized women and racial women. So, but then I came to the point that there are three things definitely that we can do, and I would like to
Mm,
propose to do it myself and be able to demonstrate and also to share with other young women who can do it too. So, three things. The first one is to rephrase. So, we need to replace the wording, the language, the lingo that we are used to. It's not racial injustice, it's racial justice that we are talking about. We need to replace the word but with yet. So, yeah, things have gone wrong in the past, and yet this is what can be done. We need to
it's
add
good.
the word yet for the possibilities. And that's when we start to show that we are dealing in hope. And when we have hope, we are able to change. And I think I was sharing with you earlier a little bit, the word shift, where shift is changing your attitude, your position, your opinion slightly. So it's that slight
Hmm.
change that can make a huge difference. So
Yeah.
I feel that if we rephrase and we replace the word but with yet, we will start to talk different,
Hmm.
and then we will able to, to show and demonstrate what we mean. The second word I think is refocus, and that's
Okay.
where, again, like I was saying, so when we start to talk differently, we are able to behave differently, and we are able to show the practices, the resources, everything that we have for ourselves. We can build that towards having a personal impact, not only for ourselves but also to the others around us. And that's when transformation can happen. So
Mm.
refocusing our behaviors, our own resources, our own practices, uh, on the fact that we have rephrased and we are going to move forwards with a different mindset. And the third one is regroup, where, it's like picturing, a few women who have realized their personal impact and their rephrased statements and all, but now they are working together as an orchestra. So they are shifting their focus from what separates us to what unites us. And that's
Hmm.
when I think, change can start to happen, and we will be able to chalk out where we want to go. So young women, they have that ability, like I was saying, to build, to understand, to become very self-aware, and to refocus on changing. It will take time. I'm not saying that 2023 will be, we will have it all done. It will take time, right? It will take time. But again, when we know this is what we stand for, we have refocused, we have rephrased, and this is where we are going from here to something different. And I think that that's an important aspect that I would like to bring, and I'm starting to do that in my own, work, and the way I behave and work and think also. And I would like that, I can share that with other young women more and more, so that, it's like building that little tribe, that little orchestra that can work together. Make
Mm.
sense?
Makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Zari Gill, what a privilege it was to listen to you and learn. And I'm so glad that you're part of our Amazing Women Who Inspire Us and are Changing the World series,
Thank
as
you.
well as we celebrate International Women's Day, what we like to say on See Here Love, Women's Day, but not day slash month,
Hmm.
year, life. But we're cheering you on.
Thank you.
I am so continually inspired by you. I'm so glad I met you so many years ago, and to see your journey as you've seen mine and how we've now come together to connect. But thank you for the great work you're doing at Red Shawl with your mentoring and coaching, for your words and encouragement, for your thoughtfulness, for all that you do. We appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you so very much for being with us today.
Thank you, Melinda, for the See Here Love, because I have been part of, several. I've watched and been, the several shows, and the impact is huge. The topics that you're able to take up, the different, women that you have brought on with their expertise and their backgrounds, that has had a huge impact on me. And I'm pretty sure it has had, many other women will be able to, talk about it, like what they learned and how they changed, their own thinking to be able to change what they do in life. So thank you so much to you and your
Mhm.
team, but particularly to you, to have this, see, hear, love, that you are seen, you are heard, and you're loved. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Zari.